So Philoctetes was an Argive hero from Thessaly. Due to a foul-smelling wound on his foot, he was abandoned on the Isle of Lemnos by Odysseus and company en route to Troy, and he lived 10 years alone in the wilderness before the prophet Calchas prophesied the Argives could not win the Trojan War without him, and the magical bow, which could not miss its target, that he had been given by Heracles prior to that demigod's death. Upon this prophecy, Odysseus and Pyrrhus, son of the late Achilles, sailed to Lemnos to persuade Philoctetes to rejoin their forces. He resisted their entreaties until, in Sophocles' play named for him, Philoctetes was confronted by Heracles, risen from the dead in a deus ex machina that resolves the conflict. Philoctetes is mentioned briefly in the Iliad. I believe it's in Book 1.
Right.
So a few other notes that might be pertinent. Lethe is the river of forgetfulness in the Elysian fields of Hades, the classical realm of the dead that we've mentioned. And traditionally, Philoctetes is the one who kills Paris Alexandros with the infallible bow and arrow.
And this poem is taking him into a modern context.
That's right. Yes, it is Philoctetes. The title is Philoctetes Long Afterward, but the idea is this hero, this person who has done great deeds, has survived into the modern era. I was reading in the local paper from where I grew up in Georgia, and there was they always do a flashback to news from 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, and there was a woman who had been born in 1898, and she was a doctor, and she continued practicing until she was 103, so in 2001, and she lived till 2012, and I thought, holy moly, what changes in the world she had seen. And I felt this similarly with the veterans who are still around from World War II, the things that they have seen and how the world has changed, and what would it feel like to be sort of the last one left, or one of the last ones left. So this is Philoctetes Long Afterward. Oh, one other note was I mentioned an argument between Achilles and Agamemnon. That, of course, is in the first book of the Iliad, the very famous sort of...
Right.
Yeah. Okay, Philoctetes Long Afterward. They're nice to me, I guess. These ghosts who never know quite what to say, having lived out meaningless lives here in Thessaly. They fear each day that they have been somehow defrauded. But bring me my deluded out on the sunny terrace anyway in their soft shoes and scrubs. They putter forward into their futures while helping us into tubs or pushing Lethean pills to coax a smile from us, who see, played on these plains once more, our ancient pains. The green, a stage that holds Troy's burning pile. It's like some movie set, this hospice. We're the actors, they're the crew. They bring our Percocet and coffee, do the lights. What do? We act like we are still the men we were, at that time when our lives still mattered. Could be worse. It's true, time's poison ravages the body. But what are gout and diabetes to one who knows what he is, what he was? What can they be to Philoctetes? I am the man who slaughtered Paris for his crime. Here, on a terrace in a wheelchair, dribbling milk from soggy Wheaties, browbeaten by these ghosts who've never lived. Here's the survivor's fate, and always with the ghost. My own dead friend came to equivocate for Pyrrhus and Odysseus, and he made such a fuss that I slouched off to fight for men I hate. For what? Lo, my reward for saving the Achaeans with my bow? Great Agamemnon, lord of men, long dead. Achilles, too, laid low. And no one cares what they debated or how manipulated, I left where Lemnos sleepy breezes blow as soft as mother peace upon the fevered brow of her sick child, who's sick with the disease of life. They could have left me in the wild, where I'd hobble from my quiet cave, like Lazarus from the grave, my dying and my living reconciled, as in some afterlife I could not end, since ending it would mean another afterlife. I've never seen such darkly brilliant green, living on bread the ravens brought, and the few fish I caught, things I'd ignored for years, took on the sheen of jeweled seas at noon. The deep down stir of things made evident, while I lay in a swoon on a stone ledge above the forest, bent over a sprig of thyme, white capped, as if some breaker lapped within the limestone shelf its growth had rent. The changeful days were changeless, and I was most alive when numbered dead, when the unexpected angels of daily observation crowned my head, as mayflies form a halo over a lily in the clover nobody's ever seen. But now, instead of that, the TV blares. I email different people. Memory fades. We're dying. No one cares. They feed us burnt steaks. We wield plastic blades and wish we'd known the naive joy of those love felled at Troy, who don't now live as shade among the shades.